Good morning, everyone. This is live via Facebook streaming and via Skype. Today, in the Master Disciple calendar, it is Guru Purnima. Before I go on the topic, the meditation sutras of Atisha, I will explain something on this occasion of Guru Purnima and significance. And why do we celebrate Guru Purnima in the rainy month according to Hindu calendar, the month of Asar? Religion is the poetic expression of the way of life and living. Guru Purnima comes, the Purnima or the full moon comes every month. Each phase, the full moon or the new moon or the dark night, is of 15 days. The moon's phases keeps on changing, and it takes 15 days to complete one cycle, whether it is new moon or full moon. The moon also reflects the light of the sun. Its light is borrowed. This is symbolic. When you light a lamp and place it in front of the mirror starts reflecting the light. But that is simply the reflection of the light through the mirror. Moon does not have its light. It reflects the light of the sun. This is symbolic for the sense that you cannot look at the sun directly because of its intensity of light. It may blind your vision, and you will not be able to look at the sun directly. So you have to look at it through the medium. And when it is said that symbolize that moon represents is symbolic of the master. Firstly, moon is reflecting the light of the sun. The light of the sun represents the light of the ultimate, the existence. And moon is the mirror that through which you get the light. It is filtered. And this filtered light has its coolness, has its beauty. So master is chosen as a symbol. Moon is used as a symbol to represent the master because it becomes a link. It cools down the light of the sun and brings it to you. And during the month of rainy season, it represents the disciple. The full moon in the month of winter is very pleasant and beautiful, but at that time the sky is totally clear and you can see the glory of the moon in its fullness. That time there are no clouds in the sky. Clouds represent the mind and also the disciple, because when a disciple comes to a master, he is full of mind, full of conditioning, full of thoughts, full of questions, and things like these. There goes on an hide and seek game between the master and the disciple. One moment the moon hides behind the clouds. Next moment it is visible in part. Sometimes this is the situation when a seeker comes in the company of the master. He is a seeker. One moment he understands the master, next moment he does not. He comes and goes. He is not able to recognize the master in his garb. So the clouds symbolize the nature of the mind and also the seeker. This is why we have chosen the full moon in the month of rainy season to celebrate this master-disciple communion. And when the light of the sun comes to you reflected as the moon, there comes with it the coolness, and you are able to absorb it because it is pleasant. You can look at the moon. You can be in its light. It is cool and comfortable. So Master filters that light of the sun, which is the authentic source of transformation, and brings you in a form that can be acceptable for you, and you can begin your journey of transformation. Master has become a mirror or a hollow flute that does not have the inertia of its own. Mirror, the surface is clean. It simply reflects the object that is placed in front of it. It does not add anything or delete anything. It manifests as it is. So Master simply manifests the light, but in such a way that it becomes convenient for you to continue your journey. That is why the symbol of moon is used. And during the month of rainy season, on the full moon night, it is celebrated. It is the recollection of where I was, how my journey had begun, and what change or transformation has taken place. A gratitude is expressed in many forms. The hymns of praises of the Master are sung, reflect many other scriptural aspects. If you follow the path of Jesus, you can reflect the story of Mary Magdalene and Jesus. What was the state that she came in? She was being stoned by the rich of the society, and she was running for her life. Jesus was sitting with his head down, and she comes in the shelter of Jesus, running for life. This is how the seeker, it happens with the seeker. The seeker is running for his life of negativities, despondency, and all sort of misery that has become the part of his life. He comes, and those rich community had, each one of them had a stone in his hand. But when the woman goes and falls at the feet of Jesus, the people held their hands in hurling these stones at her. And they said all in one voice, the old law says, a woman who has been in adultery should be stoned to death. Jesus does not look at anyone, specifically at Mary Magdalene, and he asks a question: who is the one who brings the woman into adultery? We should seek the answer to this question. It is the rich. Someone bells the cat, and then the process begins. It is the rich and the elite who bring a woman into adultery, and with his head down, he says, he who had not committed a crime should cast the first stone. Slowly and slowly, the crowd began to disperse and disappear. But Jesus continues, his head down. What is very important, not the words. You have to visualize how Jesus is at that moment. What is the state that Mary Magdalene is at that moment? She is all her knees in front of Jesus, and Jesus has his head down looking at the ground. If he had looked into the eyes of Mary Magdalene, she would have become aware of the guilt. But first and the foremost thing that the Master has to do, remove the negativities and bring you into a happy frame of mind, that you can start looking at the thing in a totally different way. Krishna did this thing when he spoke the first word, first sutra, Kutaштva kashmalmidam vishme samupasthitam. O Arjun, from where did these negativities come into you? You are of the warrior clan, a strong warrior who can overcome any situation. Jesus does not look at Mary Magdalene and he said, "Woman, where are the ones who were blaming you?" But all of them were gone. And even without looking at Mary, Jesus says, "Woman, go home and sin no more." These words are the reflection of the glory of the Son, the authenticity that he has been able to capture those vibes of the Son, the strong energy field of the Sun that has the capacity to transform, and he transfers this energy through those words, because you must have a vehicle to transport you. The words are the vehicle to transport the energy that Master wants to commune to you. And it is that energy which in Sufi terminology we call as tawajjuh. It is through that, through the medium, through the vehicle of those words, he transfers that energy into you that begins to work. And he says, "Woman, go home and sin no more." These words were magical. And these words have transformed the whole life of Mary Magdalene. From a seeker who was running for his life, like the clouds, running helter-skelter in the sky, have now settled, have now disappeared, the negativities have disappeared. A new life begins, the sky begins to clear, slowly and slowly, and the journey of transcendence begins. This is the essence. On this day, while celebrating, one thing is, it is a cash register business. People come with the fruits, flowers, gifts in monetary form, and otherwise for the Master. At that time, what is more significant, to reflect the relation between the Master and disciple, what was your state of mind when you came to the company of the Master, and slowly the clouds of negativities started disappearing, and then the moon started reflecting in its full splendor, and you were getting the reflection of the light of the sun. Atisha says, grasp the principle of two witnesses. Always rely on just a happy frame of mind. That is the most essential. Even though you are distracted, if you can do it, happy frame of mind. It is still a mind training. Always observe three general principles. change your inclination and then maintain it. Do not discuss the defects. Do not think about anything that concerns the others. Train first against the defilement that is greatest. Abandon all hopes of results. Two witnesses is the first sutra of meditation given by Atisha. The sutra says, grasp the principle of two witnesses. What are these two witnesses? It is one of the most important sutras. Atisha was born 1000 years after Gautam the Buddha, his Tibetan master. Indeed, it is one of the very fundamentals in the process of inner alchemy. Let it sink deep in your heart. And once it sinks deep in your heart, the process of transformation begins. It can give you a new birth, a new vision, a new universe. It has two meanings, and both meanings have to be understood, and they are relevant. The first meaning, there are two kinds of witnesses. One kind is the people that surround you. You are constantly aware that you are being watched and witnessed. It creates self-consciousness in you, maybe a sort of restlessness in you. Hence, the fear when you are on a stage facing a big crowd comes in. The actors, poets, and orators feel this fear when they go on the stage. It is not only the beginners who feel, but even those who have wasted their whole life in acting, they too face this. When they come on the stage, a great trembling arises in them, a great fear as to whether they will be able to make it or not. So the first and the foremost thing that is important is that the kind of people that surround you, with so many eyes watching you, you are reduced to an object. You are no more a subjectivity. You have become a thing. And you are afraid because they may not appreciate you. They may not understand you. They may not feed your ego. They may not like you. They may reject you. All these possibilities exist. Now you are in their hands. You are reduced to a dependent slave. Now you have to work in such a way that you will be appreciated. You have to buttress their egos so that in response you can hope they will buttress and support your ego. When you are with your friends, you are not so afraid. You know them, they are predictable, and you depend on each other. But when you face an anonymous crowd, more fear arises. Your whole being trembles, and your ego is at stake that you can fall. Who knows? Your success is not guaranteed. This is the first kind of witness that you have to understand. Others are witnessing you and you are just a beggar. This is the situation in which millions of people live. They live for others, hence they only appear to be living, but they do not live in reality. They are always trying to adjust to the others because they are happy only if others are happy with them. They are compromising constantly. They are selling their souls for the simple reason so their ego can be strengthened and they become famous, well known. Have you observed something of immense value? That whenever a poet, a novelist, or a scientist gets the Nobel Prize, immediately after that his creativity declines. No Nobel laureate has been able to produce anything valuable compared to the things that he created before he received the Nobel Prize. What happens? You have been striving to get something, so you create a classic and you are given an award for that. Now you have attained the goal of ego. There is nowhere to go beyond that. Nowhere. So there is no need to adjust to people. Once a book becomes famous, the author dies. That is what happened to Khalil Gibran's The Prophet. That is what happened to Rabindranath Tagore's Gitanjali. And that is almost the rule, not in any way an exception. Once you are famous, you stop compromising. For what is there to compromise now? You are already famous. And when you stop compromising, people start neglecting you, ignoring you. Your whole creativity is rooted in the desire of ego. Now ego feels at rest and creativity disappears. This is the situation in which 99.9% people live. They only know one kind of witness, the other. Living for the other. There is yet, and the other is almost anxiety creating. Jean-Paul Sartre rightly says the other is hell. The other does not allow you to relax. Why do you feel so relaxed in your bathroom or in your bathtub? It is so simply because in the bathroom or in the bathtub, the other is totally absent. While relaxing in your bathtub, if you suddenly become aware that somebody else is looking at you through the keyhole, suddenly all relaxation disappears. You become tense once again. You are being watched. To create fear in people down the ages, the priests have been telling you that God is constantly watching you. Constantly watching you day in and day out. You may be asleep, but he never sleeps. He goes on sitting by the bed and watching. He not only watches you, instead he watches your dreams and your thoughts as well. It has been told you. So you are not only going to be punished for your acts, for your dreams, thoughts, desires, and all your feelings too. The priest creates great fear in people. Just think of God watching you constantly. No moment, not even a single moment, is allowed when you can be yourself. And that was the greatest strategy by reducing people to things. Why do we hanker for the attention of the others? We hanker for the attention of the others simply because as we are hollow inside. As we are not, because we do not have a center of being yet developed. We have not discovered the center. And without the center, there can be no periphery. And without periphery, there can be no center. Indeed, man is just a noise, a crowd, a house full of servants quarreling with one another because the master is absent or fast asleep. We hanker for other people's attention so that at least we can create a pseudo-center in us. But the real is missing. At least one can depend on the pseudo-center. It will give you a kind of appearance of togetherness. It will make you a person. You are not an individual yet. Remember, individuality is the fragrance of a really centered being. Individuality is the fragrance of a really centered being, one who knows who he is. But if you are not an individual, then at least you can be a person. You can attain personality. And personality has to be begged. Individuality is your own growth. It is a growth. You need not beg it from anyone else, and nobody can give it to you. Individuality is your enfoldment or envelope. Personality can be begged. People can give it to you. In fact, only other people can give it to you. If you are alone in the forest, you will not have any personality. Indeed, you will have individuality. If you are alone in the mountains or in the cave, then there is nobody to appreciate you or condemn you. There is no one to make you famous or notorious. And there is no one except yourself. That is why it was essential to go to the mountains or caves or some lonely place in order to attain to that individuality. In your total aloneness, who knows who you are? A sinner or a saint? Then you will know if you are a very famous person or just nobody. But you are neither. You are neither a very important person nor nobody, because in both the other is necessary. The eyes of the other are necessary to reflect your personality. You are neither this nor that. You are. But you are in reality. You are not created by others. You are as you are, in your utter nudeness, in your utter authenticity. This is one of the reasons why many people thought it wise to escape from this society and go to the mountains or the caves or somewhere else. It was not really to escape from the society. It was not really against society, and instead it was just an effort to renounce the personality. Buddha left his palace. He was not a coward, and he was not an escapist. So why did he leave the palace? Rabindranath Tagore has written a beautiful poem about it. Buddha left the palace, and for 12 years he wandered, roamed in the forests, practiced and meditated. And the day of ultimate rejoicing came when enlightenment dawned. Naturally, the first thing that he remembered was that he has to go back to the palace and deliver good news to the woman he had loved, to the child that he had left behind, to the old father who was still hoping that his son would come back. It is so human. It touches the heart. After 12 years he returns. His father was angry as any other father will be. His father could not see who he was. He could not see who he had become. What transformation has happened to him. He could not see his individuality, which was so loud and clear. The whole world was becoming aware of it, but his father was blind to it. He was still thinking about him in terms of personality that was no longer there, that he had renounced the day he left the palace. In fact, Buddha had to leave the palace just to renounce the personality. In the palace, he had a certain way of life to live. A certain kind of recognition is being given to him. He wanted to know himself as he was, not what others were thinking about him. But the father was now looking into his face with eyes that has the vision of 12 years ago, 12 years old. He again said to Buddha, I am your father. I love you, although you have hurt me deeply and wounded me too. I am an old man now, and these 12 years had been a great torture for me. You are my only son, and I have somehow tried to live so that you could come back to me. And I was certain that one day you will come back. Father has his own reasons for the son to come. And the son, Buddha, had his own reasons to return to the father. Now you are back. Take charge of the empire. Be the king. Now let me rest. It is time for me to rest in peace. You have committed a great sin against me, and you have been almost murderous towards me, but I forgive you, and my doors are still open for you. Buddha laughed. He said, Sir, be a little more aware of whom you are talking with now. The man who left the palace is no more there. He died long ago. I am someone else. Look at me. Look into my eyes. There is a totally different, you can see the difference. And the father got more angry. He said, Do you want to deceive me again, saying that I do not know you? I know you more than you yourself. I am your father. I have given you birth. In your blood, my blood circulates. And you say, I do not know you? You went on like, he went on like any other father would. Buddha replied, still I pray. So you have certainly given birth to me. That is the first birth that the parents give you. I have come through you. That is true. But you are only a vehicle. And just because somebody has come riding a horse, it does not mean that the horse knows the rider. Does it? Just because somebody has come riding a horse, it does not mean that the horse knows the rider. I have passed through the doors of your body, but that does not mean that you know me. In fact, 12 years have gone. 12 years ago, even I did not know who I was, but now I know. Look into my eyes. Forget the past. Be here now and see who stands in front of you is no more your son. He is not the son of Mary and Joseph. He is not Jesus anymore. He is Christ, resurrected. But the father was incapable to see. His eyes were old, full of fear, full of tears of anger and joy. He could not see what had happened to Buddha. His father lamented, "What nonsense are you talking about? That he died and is reborn?" Jesus dies on the cross to be reborn as Christ. That is, the personality is no more, the individuality has come. But in dictionaries, personality and individuality are almost synonyms. In reality, they are not synonyms in life. Personality is false, a pretense, a facade. Individuality is your truth. Why do we want many people to give attention to us? Why do we hanker for this? Simply to create personality. And the more personality you create around you, the less is the possibility of knowing your individuality. And when Buddha went to see his wife, she was even more angry. She asked only one question, and this question is very significant one. She said, "I have only one question to ask. I have waited for all these years to ask you this single question. The question is simple, but be honest." She still thinks that Buddha can be dishonest. Be honest, be true, and just tell me one thing. Whatever you have attained in the forest, was it impossible to attain here in the palace? A very relevant question. This question only a wisdom like Rabindranath Tagore can ask on behalf of Yashodhara. Whatever you have attained in the forest, was it impossible to attain here in the palace? If God is God only in the forest and not here in the marketplace? Her question is of tremendous significance. Buddha said, yes. The truth is as much here as it is there. But it would have been difficult for me to know it here because I was lost in personality web. The personality of being the prince, the personality of being a husband, the personality of being a father, the personality of being a son. The personality was too much. I never left the palace really. I was only leaving the personality behind so that there would be nobody to remind me who I was. And I could see the answer to your question, who I am. I happened to listen to one of the cassettes of one of the person who is considered to be done quite a lot of work. His name, he says, my name is Dr. So and so. So is your name Dr. So and so? This is the web of personality that you have to come out of it. In order for your individuality to know who you are, you have to be utterly nude of all, you have to strip of all those that makes you, that feeds onto your ego. Buddha said, I never left the palace really. I was only leaving my personality behind so that there would be nobody to remind me who I was. And I could seek the answer to the question, who am I? On my own. I wanted to encounter myself. I was not interested in the opinion of the others, an answer from others. When a disciple comes to the master, he is living in the opinions of the others and he is seeking the answers from the others. An authentic master is not interested in giving you the answers. Instead, he creates the situations for the answers to arise from deep within. And that is what the freedom is, to attain to your own center from where you get the answer. You have developed your own pool, the reservoir, the well from where you extract the water, and that is what the purpose of education is, to educe something from within. And that should be the purpose of the ordinary university teachers, to allow that situation in which something really comes from within, but everybody else is interested in the other answers. How much you love it when somebody says you are beautiful. Maybe it tastes good. Maybe its flavor is beautiful, but it does not nourish you. It does not give you any vitality. Personality is a showpiece. It can deceive others, but it cannot deceive you, at least not for long. That is why seekers come to the masters, tried, exhausted by all attention, but old habits continue a little longer. Sooner or later, he will start enjoying himself and his individuality too. And the day you can enjoy your individuality, you are free from the dependence of the others. If you ask for their attention, you have to pay for it in return, and the reward is the bondage. The more you ask, the more you ask people to be attentive towards you, the more you are becoming an object, a commodity that can be sold and purchased. This is what happens to all public figures, politicians, and the showbiz people. This is one kind of witnessing. You want to be witnessed. It gives you respectability. And in order to have respectability, you have to create a character and a morality. But all that character and all that morality is just hypocrisy. You create it with a motivation so that others can be attracted towards you. If you want respectability, you will have to be conformist. You have to be obedient to the society and its demands. You will have to live according to the wrong values, because the society consists of people who are fast asleep, and their values cannot be the right ones. Yes, but there is one thing: you can become a saint. That is how thousands of your saints are born. They have sacrificed everything at the altar of respectability. They have tortured themselves. You have been suicidal, but they have tortured themselves and have been suicidal, but they have gained one thing: they have become saints. People worship them now. If you want that kind of worship, that kind of respectability, or that kind of sainthood, then you will become more and more false, pseudo, and plastic-like. And that is one of the greatest calamity in life that can happen to a man, to be plastic rose and not to be a real rose. Yet still there is another kind of witnessing which is totally different. It is almost polar opposite. It is not that you hanker for others' attention. On the contrary, you start paying attention to yourself. You become a witness to your own being. You start watching your thoughts, desires, dreams, motives, greeds, and jealousies. You create a new kind of awareness within you. You become a center, a silent center which goes on watching whatsoever is happening. You are angry and you watch it. You are not just angry, instead a new element is being introduced into it and you are watching it. And the moment you start watching, another kind of miracle starts happening. And the miracle is that if you can watch anger, the anger disappears without being repressed. In the first kind of saint, will have to repress it. He will have to repress his sexuality, and he will have to repress his greed. The more you repress, deeper it goes into your unconscious and becomes part of your basement. And it starts affecting your life from there. It is like a wound that is oozing with pus, but you have covered it. Just by covering, you do not become healthy. It does not heal. In fact, by covering it, you are helping it to grow even more and more. Your saints go on living with all kind of repressions. The second kind of witnessing creates a totally different kind of person. It creates the sage. The sage is the one who knows who he is, not according to others. The sage is the one who lives a life according to his own values, nature, not according to others or their values. He has his own vision and courage to live it. He is rebellious, not obedient, not orthodox, not conventional, not traditional, not conformist. He is non-conformist, non-traditional, non-conventional, rebellious. He does not depend on others. He knows what freedom is, and he knows the joy of freedom, and that is what he shares with you. He will not. The saint will be followed by a big crowd. The stage will have only the chosen people who will be able to understand him. The sage will be misunderstood by the masses while the saint is being worshipped. The sage or the real master will be condemned by the masses, maybe even murdered. Jesus is crucified, but Pope is worshipped. Jesus is a sage and Pope is a saint. The saint has character and the sage has consciousness. Either you live with the first kind of witnessing, you develop character. With the second kind of witnessing, when you start witnessing your own thoughts, then you grow into consciousness. And there is a vast difference between character and consciousness. They differ, and the difference is like earth and sky. Character is imposed for some ulterior motives, to gain respectability in the world or to have more heavenly pleasures. Consciousness has no future, no motivation. It is just a joy unto itself. It is not a means to some end, instead it is an end unto itself. Atisha reminds you, grasp the principle of two witnesses. Avoid the first and plunge into the second. Start witnessing your own thoughts, emotions, and feelings. There is another meaning to this sutra. The other meaning is, first witness is the object of the mind. This is a higher meaning than the first. Witness the objects of the mind. Patanjali calls this as dhyan. Meditation from the same root. Witness the objects, the contents of the mind. Whatsoever passes before you, watch it without evaluating it, without judging it or condemning it. You do not be for or against, just watch, and meditation or dhyan is created. And the second is witness the witness itself. With this, samadhi or satori is created. The ultimate ecstasy happens. The first leads to the second. Start watching your own thoughts, but do not stop there. Continue the journey. When thoughts have disappeared, do you think that you have arrived? One more step. One more thing has to be done. One more step is needed. Now start watching the watcher. Now just witness the witnessing. Nothing else is left. Only you are. just suddenly become aware of awareness itself, and then the meditation, dhyan is transformed into samadhi. By watching the mind, mind disappears. By watching the witness, witness expands and becomes universal, cosmic. The first is a negative step to get rid of the mind, and the second is the positive step to get rooted in the ultimate consciousness. You can call it God or Nirvana or whatsoever you wish. But these are the two witnesses. Nothing else is left. Only this much for this morning. Take care and do have a pleasant day. Until tomorrow, take care.